Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Daniel Coniglio, Partnership Manager in Victoria, and I'm joined by my colleague Greg Cook, Partnership Manager in New South Wales, and the man of the moment, Dino Pacella. How are you, Dino?
Good, mate. Good. Thank you for having me along, guys.
That's the way. Good to have you here, mate. Welcome, Greg, as well. Good to see you, my friend.
Both
Greg and I are feeling extremely underdressed at the moment. We both hopped on. I've got my plan top on there, but then we saw Dino looking very sharp in his usual jacket there, and looking a lot better than us. So yeah, feeling a little underdressed. But welcome everyone. Today's session will run for 1 hour. It is MFAA, FBAA accredited, so codes will come out to everyone that has joined the webinar post today's event. Today's session is going to be a little bit different to what you're probably used to plan running. We've been doing a lot over the past few months. I mean, we do a lot anyway when it comes to webinars and Zoom, but we've had podium training sessions, we've had best interest duty sessions, we've had lender sessions, APIs going into podium sessions. There's been a lot of sessions where people walk away with a lot of content. Today is really an interview style webinar where we're going to talk to Dino about his journey around personal branding. So it is going to be a little bit different, but we encourage questions from everyone throughout the course of the webinar. We'll monitor them and do our best to answer them all as well. So let's get into it, because we've got the hour and we want to get the most out of it. So we have Dino with us. I've known Dino now probably for, wow, I think it's probably about 6 years. I think, Dino, we met each other back at Suncorp, where we were BDMs. So Dino's got 17 years experience in finance. So he was a BDM at Suncorp, where I originally met him. He's been an area manager. He's been a branch manager, so has been around finance for a long time. And Dino really does have a deep passion for mortgage brokers and the third-party network. He's the founder of National Finance Brokers Day, which came about in 2015. And that was really established, to build awareness around what brokers do on a day-to-day basis and the value they add with consumers. So it's a great initiative. That's held on the third Wednesday of August every year, Dino, correct?
Correct, 19th of August this year.
19th of August this year. So looking forward to seeing what you sort of put on this year when it comes to National Finance Brokers Day, Dino. It's grown. I remember when you did kick it off in 2015. It's really grown legs and it's becoming a huge event, a national event. So it's great to see. Now this brings us to today's session and your other passion, and that's around personal branding. People that are on the call now would see you a lot on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You've got a strong personal brand, and and that's why we have you here today, to really get some insights around personal branding and what it means to you, and how people can leverage some of your hints and tips, because Greg and I do get a lot of questions around personal branding from plain brokers, and at the moment there's a lot of noise, and people are just trying to cut through and trying to be heard and sell their message, and it can be quite difficult in an environment like we're in at the moment. So we're keen to get your hints and tips, Dino, on that. So without further ado, we're going to get stuck into it, and I want to start off with my first question, and that's around, just give us your background on how you got into personal branding, Dino.
Yeah, listen, Dan, thanks for the intro, mate. I sort of stumbled into it. So when I became a BDM with Suncorp and I started into that role, there was a colleague within the organisation that said, I'm on the LinkedIn platform, mate. I can't find you. I want to connect with you, and we can share a bit of a community, and we can see if we can work together. And it was a gentleman that was in business banking at the time. And I turned around and I said, mate, what the hell is LinkedIn? What are you talking about? He goes, oh, this platform. So he introduced me to it, and then I came back the next day after spending the night on it, and I went, mate, this looks good, but I don't get what the objective is for people to spend time on that. Why don't they just use Facebook or Instagram and do it that way? And he goes, well, it's a professional platform. And he goes, well, he was posing the question. He goes, well, what do you want to do in the BDM world, in that broker world? Where do you want to end up? And he goes, well, I want to add value, but I want to be the best BDM in the country. Right? And I was very adamant and very egotistical, Dan and Greg, that's what I wanted to become. And so he goes, well, LinkedIn, he goes, you need to be on it and you need to be telling people that's what you want to do. And I went, oh, okay. I said, well, that must be what personal branding is all about. All right. So I did that for the first few years. It was all about Suncorp. It was all about what I was winning. It was all about what I was doing with brokers. All about me. Right. And I looked like a real arrogant twat. Right? Excuse your French, but I was. And I don't know if people are watching now, if they can put a thumbs up, if they remember when I used to post about things like that, feel free. I'm all honest and open here, nothing's off limits. But until I actually started seeking out some feedback from people across the country, and they weren't mates of mine, but I was going, hey, can you get me some feedback around what you're seeing? What's your perception of me? And it's not somebody that I've been speaking to every week. 9 out of 10 people were telling me the same thing. Yeah, it's looking a little bit arrogant, you're a little bit overconfident. Mate, Australians, we've got that tall poppy syndrome when it comes to people who are successful. Maybe you need to tweak the messaging. And I sat down with a communications expert across social for a couple of days around tweaking what personal branding is. So that light bulb moment came off, and now it's all around creating content where if it's not adding value and not putting a smile on somebody's face or not giving them new information or new education, then it doesn't make my content calendar. And that now is all around what my personal brand stands for. It's all about, I don't know if people have seen this, I don't think we've got it on the screen, but it's all around flipping that M in the me and making it about the we factor. And I say that regularly, but that's my motto around my brand now.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Dino. That's good insight. So just on that then, what in your words, what is personal branding? Because, you know, for me, you hear a lot about having a good personal brand internally, a good personal brand externally. It's a sexy word, and people love kind of throwing it around. But what is personal branding? What would be your elevator pitch if someone asked you, what is personal branding?
Yeah. In my sense, you can take it away from pre-social media days, and you can simply replace branding with reputation. Right? And that is one aspect. So branding is all about how do you make people hang around you when they don't know you. And that there's a lot to that. It sounds very easy to do, and continue building a persona that, one, you're approachable, 2, there's an opportunity for people to learn something from you, and 3, there's an opportunity for people to like you. And I think if you tackle those 3 areas when it comes to your brand, then you're building that reputation. So when you do seek that feedback, and I'd encourage everybody to seek feedback on their brand, regardless if you're just starting or you've been doing it for 10 years, go out and get some research on it. And if you're not doing one of those 3 things, then maybe the messaging around your brand needs to change a little bit. And again, just to highlight, we are talking about personal branding here. We're not talking about marketing for your business. And that does, I suppose, come into play when it comes to brand, in particular for the broker channel, because you want to sort of intertwine both around your personal brand and that business marketing that you're doing for your business. So it's all about that growth, but that exponential growth that both of them can bring to you. So that's probably a very long-winded answer to an easy question, mate.
No, that's okay, mate. We'd just be getting on ground floor and probably going to level 60, mate. So that's good. No, that's awesome. So you just made a really interesting point when we started around, you know, you seek feedback, you know, you wanted honesty, and people were saying, you know, look, you're coming across a little bit arrogant. I think you used the word twat.
Yep.
But what's it? Because for people that don't know you, and I find this really interesting, and we've spoken about this before by phone and face to face, but you know, people would see what you do online, and they would think that you are the life of the party. You know, you're the alpha male that walks in the room and demands the limelight. But the reality is, for the people that do know you, you're not an extrovert. You are an introvert. You like to keep to yourself. So what's it like to almost become the front man when the reality is naturally that's just not you, Dino? What's it like to kind of put yourself out there and be the face? Because a lot of people that we'll speak to, brokers in particular, you know, they might go, look, I'm just not sure if I want to do it, and they almost feel like they have to be a professional actor to go on and create content. So what's it like being the front man when the reality is that's probably not really who you are?
Yeah, you're right, Dan. I'm not an extrovert. So you're right. For people that do know me, I definitely love that me time. And all these PD days that we go to, industry events. I'm certainly not one that's in the middle of the room yelling and screaming. You'll probably find me talking to one or two people, and that's all that's all I'll be doing. But
Yeah.
something in, I suppose, putting my brand out there a lot more over the last few years than what I have done. I don't know if you'd call me a frontman, Dan, but it's fun now and it's exciting. So for anybody that's watching and listening in, if you're thinking, well, I need to be a professional actor, or I'm scared of what people are going to think of me, I'm scared of what people are going to portray me as, I tell you what, once you actually rip off that band-aid and that fear factor and get past that, you start getting people messaging you and you go, oh, that's actually nice. Somebody's taking notice of what I'm doing and I've helped them in one way, shape or form. Or then it's a prospect might come to you if you're a broker and going, hey mate, I've got this lender says they're doing this, but can you look at it for me? Then it all of a sudden adds that real value and going, oh, I get this branding. It's exciting because I'm investing some time into it. And we'll go through a little bit about that later. But if you're investing that time, yeah, from a business perspective, you want that return on investment for your time that you're creating your brand. So it's about plugging in your brand into your lifestyle and into your business and enjoying it. So if you're stressing out creating content and going, oh my God, I haven't done anything for a week, I've got to quickly put a video up and talk about the RBA announcement at the beginning of the month, well, I'd say don't do that. Because one, if you're rushing to create content and you're stressing yourself out over it, the quality is going to be poor, the messaging is going to be poor, and it's not what your audience wants to know. And if you're a broker out there, I'd say 99% of the audience are clients or prospects that you want to bring in. So what do they want to hear about? Do they want to hear about that RBA's kept the rates the same? Probably not. Do they want to hear about what lenders are doing in particular to changing repayment terms or the repayment holidays that are happening with COVID now? What does that look like for a consumer? Is that more relevant to a consumer market rather than saying RBA's changed or hasn't changed? So it's all around that messaging and what you can do with it.
I think what you do well as well, Dino, is you're very good at you got a good mix of professional, but you got a good mix of showing people who you are. And like an example is I've seen you do a couple of videos with your beautiful girls. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, mate. I think they're gonna be exactly like you. But what is that hard to do when you start kind of really opening up the door to your personal life and saying, hey, this is me, these are my kids. Was that difficult?
Oh, no doubt. And I'll answer that with the first post I did with them, and I'll never forget it because it sat in my camera roll on my phone for about 2 months before I actually posted it. And it wasn't with my girls, but it was talking about a divorce that I went through, and yes, just the one. But it was around the emotional aspect around what that looks like from not leaving a relationship, but leaving children where I was seeing them 24/7 to all of a sudden only seeing them 50% of the time. And how do you actually overcome that? And I did that video that lasted for about 3 minutes. And I sat there and I must have watched it about 50 times and I went, God, do people want to know about this shit? I mean, I was BDM working for a large organization back then. What's my boss going to think of it? What's HR going to think of it? What's legal going to think of it? Is it okay? So on that aspect, I mean, I got sign off to do everything as long as it wasn't damaging the organization, then run with it. But it was scary, Dan. Some scary shit to actually do, to go, hey, listen, this is the real me. But once I did that, and that was the first time that I actually did that, the amount of people, both male and female, that were messaging, sending me emails, texts that were coming off going, oh my God, I'm going through that now. How did you do this? Or how did you do that? How did you combat the fighting with the ex-partner? And how do you deal with the children at different ages? And it was really, I suppose, heartwarming to be able to help people from a real human element. It had nothing to do with me being a BDM in the broker channel. It was me being a human and just sharing my experience. And I'm not an expert when it comes to relationships, but I was just sharing what I did that worked. And few people go, oh, thank God, even just having somebody to bounce something off that wasn't their parents or wasn't their cousin. Do you know what I mean? It just gives them someone else going, oh, I'm not alone in this. I can get past it. And ever since then, that personal aspects probably makes up 40, 50% of my content now.
Yeah, wow. So then just on that, what are the benefits then of being real on social media? Is it just that you're giving people a bit of an insight to who you are? Is that all it is? And you're maybe sort of reaching out to people and connecting with people that may not kind of be in that initial circle? What are some of the benefits of being real?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, most people, if you're going to do research either on a product or a service, and if it's a broker industry we're talking about, right? If I was doing research on a broker, I'd want to sort of have that small snippet of a connection with them. And if you're putting a strong brand out there, particularly if you're creating video content, if you're at that level, it gives then people the opportunity, and we've heard it all before, that know, like, and trust aspect. And if you give, all you got to do is give people an opportunity of that much to say, hey, listen, this is me. One, I know what I'm talking about. I'm showing my credibility through my brand. But two, I live in your community. I know what consumers want. I know what's important. And it may not always be dollars and cents. Right? Yeah. Off the back of that, I've got a large network that can help with the whole settlement process, that can help with other financial education, whatever it may be. But you're doing that, and you're doing it from a sense of you and you being real. So you don't need to spend thousands of dollars to create 3 or 4 pieces of video content or any content at that matter. Just grab your phone, record it. As long as you can hear what you're saying, the audio's there, right? It's more around that messaging that people want to know about. So make it all about, focused around your audience. So I'd encourage people, when they are opening up, know who you're opening up to, though. Know your audience and your demographic that you're targeting, because that's different in different industries, off different platforms as well, Dan.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Dino. Now, before I hand over to Greg to continue the interview, the final question I've got for you is, through this whole journey from day one to today, have you had a mentor? And if you do, or if you had, do you still have a mentor? Do you have mentors who you can, who you can connect with? You can run things past. You can get advice, get feedback. Did you have someone to guide you?
I didn't, and that's probably why I cocked it up for the first 3 years. that I didn't, and I wish I did, because I wouldn't have gone through that twat stage. But after that, there was 2 people in the US that I spoke to regularly, and they were giving me some feedback as well. They were, I suppose, showing me a few insights and tips off LinkedIn platform in particular that I wasn't aware of, and certain parts of how, even going through what the algorithm looked like at that stage. And because Americans, I suppose, use this platform a lot more than what Australians do. So that was great to have that insight, and we kept that going for around 3 months. And that's when I started changing that, flipping around what that brand looked like. So I grabbed as much information and I shared as much information with these people, and then I continued running with it. But at the beginning, no, I didn't. But listen, I'd encourage people to do that. If you're a little bit lost or a little bit fearful of what to put out there, bounce ideas off each other. I mean, we got plan brokers on the webinar now, and there's so much information just in your own aggregator that you can search for, let alone the industry as a whole that you can get. Utilize people. You guys got wonderful partnership managers. Utilize it. Just bounce ideas off, going, hey, I want to put this up. What do you think? Yeah. Right? Remove that ego. We don't need to know everything. And when it comes to branding, there's no real right and wrong answer to it. But there's more positive aspects that you can actually put out rather than negative. Sometimes just asking a few people around, what do you think of that, does wonders for yourself and for your potential audience that's actually going to have a look at your content.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Dino. Some great insights there, mate. Really appreciate that. Greg, over to you.
Thanks, Dino and Dan. I think that's a great kind of intro and segue into, I guess, getting started in the personal branding space, and maybe overcoming some of those those barriers and those fears to kind of put yourself in front of the camera or put yourself out there on social media. But I really like, there's some key words that you were using in some language that I guess brokers use a lot, and authenticity is one of those, being part of a community, sharing and helping, adding value, and then personal brand versus business brand. I think mortgage broking by far and away is a personal brand exercise. People go and see Daniel, the mortgage broker, or Dino, the mortgage broker. They don't go and see Greg, the mortgage broker, only for no other reason than it's like his brand, that he works at Greg's Home Loans and Greg's Home Loans is the best. So I think there's a real opportunity for brokers who want to put out content and put information from a personal branding perspective out there to actually then reap some benefit in their business. And that's I guess part of what we're here to talk about today. So we've done a bit of the background, and now I kind of want to pick your brains on some of the detail, because this is the bit where I guess we all learn, and I'll put my hand up and say I'm really keen to actually hear about how you do it and how you plan it, because it doesn't happen by accident. So yeah, we'll get straight into that. How do you? I mean, the simplest question is, how do you plan your social media activity?
Okay. So I've got a calendar that I use, or a little social media calendar, but I old school. I use an A4 piece of paper, and can anyone see that? It looks like chicken squabble that nobody can. Looks like hieroglyphics. No, that's not the word, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So if anybody wants to grab an A4 piece of paper and jot this down, I'll actually share what exactly is on this page. I didn't want to put it up on the slide because you wouldn't make heads or tails of it. But if I can go through it, so first of all, I actually work through how much I can invest in the time of my brand each day. Okay, so each day has a Monday through to Sunday on the top of that, and I'll put on the personal branding time that I've got. So fortunate at the moment, well, fortunate or not fortunate, I'm not currently in full-time employment due to COVID, so I will be shortly, but at the moment, I can invest 3 to 4 hours a day into this brand, okay? And that's everything that has to do with my brand. And I'll run through what that 4 hours looks like. So I've got Monday through to Saturday's 4 hours. Sunday, I'm going to do 5 hours because I've got the house to myself for about 6 hours. So I thought I'd kill that time and make it useful for me. So it changes. But again, as I mentioned before, it fits into my lifestyle. I'm not saying brokers got 4 hours in a day, because if you do, then probably not busy on the core side of it. But if you have half an hour, then that's fine. Put 30 minutes. If you've got 15, put 15, no dramas. Whatever you can do that you're comfortable with, that's not going to stress you out, okay? And if you're writing 100 mil a year, you might need to outsource this. So you can still jot this down and get an outsourcing person to do it for you. But next to those days, outside of the investment time, I've actually got the posting time. So each day could be different in regards to my own network on where majority of people will see the majority of my content, okay? So again, I'm talking purely across LinkedIn here. The posting times will obviously change across different platforms, but if I went through on a Monday, the evenings work good for me, so between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. work well. That Monday morning seems to be a little bit of a dull spot, given people are getting into the working week and either have team meetings or whatever they're doing on a Monday morning. That Tuesday, there's 2 time slots. Actually, from Tuesday to Thursday, there's either 2 time slots that work well. That's that 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and again, that 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And you'll notice these time slots in more of that commute time. Just finished work, or I've just put the kids to bed. Now I can actually invest some time into what I'm doing around my brand. The Friday, the morning seems to work well. The afternoons are okay now. Pre-COVID, the afternoon, Friday afternoons, people were sort of clicking off for the week and maybe weren't too interested in looking through or scrolling through feeds and learning something new on a Friday either. And then on the weekend, Saturday mornings a little bit later, that 8 to 9 a.m. and Sunday evenings, again, between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. work well. That Saturday morning, you can rewind your clock back about 20 years, maybe not that long, but when we had the newspapers delivered and we sit down with a cup of tea or coffee out in the patio and we'd grab the Sydney Morning Herald or something, and we'd read through it. That's sort of been replaced now by your social media time for some people, not everybody. So outside of that posting, Greg, there's the preparation time, which comes into play. So that posting time takes me 5 minutes to actually just post it. The preparation time is then I have 50% of my daily investment time dedicated to prep. So that's creating content, right? So it could be text, video, whatever I'm doing. 2 hours each day goes into creating that content. And I may smash out 4 or 5 pieces, which takes me into placing them into the calendar for the next week or the week after. So I've got about 3 of these pieces of paper on the go at any one time. And then the next piece of it's engagement. And that's the last piece of your investment time. So if you've got 10 minutes left, put 10 minutes on engagement. That's going through your news feed and showcasing your brand through comments. And that's a very valuable piece where I think a lot of people forget about doing, that we get so caught up in creating content and looking at what I need to put out, what do people want to see, but you can do that 2 ways. You can do that one in your own content, and you can do that through commenting on other people's posts. But you want to comment in a way that, again, you can add that value, you can add that education piece. And once you do that, then all of a sudden you start opening your own brand up to a different demographic, to a different audience, because it's people that potentially may not see your organic content, but they're seeing you through other people's content, which gives them the opportunity to click on your profile and have a look at what you do. So you want to ensure that your profile is set up as crisp and as clean as possible. Continuing onto that page, so there's a bit on an A4 piece of paper, but brokers aren't shy of jotting things down, I'm sure. Content type becomes another row on that piece. So what am I putting down for the day? Is it a text piece? Is it I'm putting a picture down? Is it long text, short text? Am I doing an article on LinkedIn and am I putting a document down? Am I creating a poll that you can do now? Do you have LinkedIn Live? Do you want to do a live broadcast? Does that come out 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. on every Wednesday? Are you doing a weekly wrap up? Whatever you want to do. It all goes down onto the daily content, okay? And then it's the content form. So Dan was asking me about it before around creating or ripping off and being vulnerable and what that looks like. So I've got that at 50% as a human to human element of my content and what the basis makes up from that. The other 30% becomes a driver for me. So sharing experiences, journey, knowledge that I've picked up that's got me from day dot in the workforce or even previous to that to where I am today. So sharing experiences that I made mistakes on LinkedIn previously, happy to share that and put that into some form of content where even if a couple of people pick that up and go, I'm doing that, maybe I should look at it differently, right? That's what it's all about. And then the rest of it makes up the business content or the corporate approach. That changes depending on, so obviously if you're self-employed, comparison to a PAYG employee, so a broker might want to do 50% of the business content, but that's okay. You can still add that brand element into it. It's not just putting a picture up around the Reserve Bank's office. Right, we get that. And then last of all on there is keeping analytics around your brand, which a lot of people don't do unless they're running a paid promotional campaign across social. They'll have a look at the analytics. But if you're doing your own organic content or native content, track how your community is growing, because if you're doing your brand right, you want that community to grow and the right type of community at that. You want to track your views and likes, and yeah, they're not as important as what the comments are, okay? And I'm not talking about comments where somebody's left a thumbs up, an emoji, but comments where people might be asking questions. So that's where your social aspect comes into it, is you're responding back, you're giving a little bit of a value on what you can do as a broker or whatever industry you're in. You're showcasing that credibility through your responses, and then even messaging people directly. If it's something that you want to dig a little bit deeper, and that's where your lead generation strategy can come into. Not that we're talking about lead gen tactics today, but your personal brand flows into that. And actually jotting down what opportunities were created from each content throughout the week. So you're keeping a whole file of these pages, right? The week commencing date on there. And you may be going back 4 weeks ago that somebody's commented on a post and you've got an opportunity to go help a client from it. So then you have built up a library of your content around what works well and what doesn't. Yeah, Greg, that's a really long-winded response to
No,
what
no,
I
no,
do.
no.
There's a lot to it.
No, and I think, I mean, look, there's probably that kind of complexity and that kind of answer probably goes to show why if you're doing, one post a week on LinkedIn with not a bunch of thought behind it, as to why you're not getting a result that you think you should be getting out the other end. So the things I guess what I want to explore is the timing element and the type of content. Is that a trial and error piece? You've kind of done, you did a post on a Monday morning and then you did one in the afternoon and you realized that one was 200% better than the other. So you said, okay, look, Monday morning's no good. And then if you kind of use your own experience and logic to go, well, actually on Monday morning, I'm pretty busy and I'm rushing to work and it's after the weekend, I'm getting the kids to school and then I'm going to a meeting and I'm in meetings till midday. It kind of makes sense to me. Is that how you've explored those things, or?
Yeah, of course. It's when I started keeping some analytics around those posts. It's having a look at what worked well, and it was more looking at, the impressions are great, more around the views are good, likes, everybody likes it. To get 500 likes, it's your own little driving your pat on the backs, per se, but it's more around that commentary that I was getting and what I was getting out of it. And when I started keeping track of it, I was still coming to the end of my career at Suncorp at that stage. So when I was getting comments that were coming from the broker market, that was obviously my main focus, was around how can I share and potentially then get brokers to message me on LinkedIn or call me and go, hey, mate, I saw that. Didn't realize you guys were doing it. Can you actually help me with this scenario? And as soon as I was doing that, then I knew, yep, that was perfect. That was gold, right? Because my personal brand, the objective was working. But sometimes it takes that experimental factor. But people are going to experiment with it and start tracking what you're doing. I'd say give yourself at least a 3 to 4 week window to do that, as with anything that you're going to collect data from, because doing it 1 week, it could just be an off week, could be a public holiday in WA or whatever. That's where the majority of your people are. So it's not a good day.
Yeah, and
experiment, trial, and give it a go.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. In you can't kind of give anything a go for a day or two or a week or two. It needs some sort of kind of concerted effort, and it might be like for the next 90 days, I'm going to commit to posting a few times a week, and I'm going to keep some analytics, and then you've actually got some data you can use to formulate a more articulate strategy about exactly what you're going to do and what content works for the audience that you're trying to speak to, which I think is, because I think finding that balancing act around your personal side and what you do and how you fit into your local community and the business brand bit is probably that really key thing for brokers. And most I'm assuming most brokers are quite comfortable putting their business brand out there because it's not their face all the time. But I think there's some data about, we see 50,000 different brands a day kind of thing by scrolling, driving in the car, scrolling through Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. To get cut through, you've really got to be doing something different.
Yeah, I agree.
My next kind of question is, I'm going to I'll put it together, is I guess how far out in advance are you planning? So, I mean, how much of this is I'm doing week to week and so that my content's fresh, or do you kind of 50% of your content's planned out for a month in advance and then you're just putting the fresh bits on the top so that it looks curated? And do you use any software or anything to help you manage this in terms of, do you schedule everything at the start of the week and then it gets posted out for you? How do you manage that?
Yep. As I mentioned, through the strategy that I use and my A4 pieces of paper, all that preparation time, if I can get 5 pieces of content created in that 2 hours on a Monday, then I will fit that in. So my content could be 4, 5, 6 weeks out in advance sometimes, but I'm conscious to actually leave a few gaps. Or if I haven't left a gap because I've created that much content, then what I'll do is obviously pull that content lever off and actually pull up the engagement lever. So I'm focusing more on what other people are doing. But Then it's around if I can push some of the content back, if something's relevant that pops up within our industry that is that consumers need to be aware of, you can pull a piece of content, write it in the other one, and hence why I have everything on a sheet of paper, because it's so easy just to scribble off and jot down. Do I use any software, Greg, was the second part of your question? No, I don't. I used to use Buffer. Obviously, there's Buffer and Hootsuite and a few of those applications out there. A couple of years back, I experimented with them a few times. I was informed, and whether this has changed in the last 2 years, I'm sure it has, but I was informed that even the social media platforms, the algorithms, when they're aware that it's coming from a third-party application, once I suppose the AI part of that algorithm actually picks up the content, it automatically shoots it out to around half a percent of your network without people engaging on it, first of all. So the smaller the network, the smaller the audience. So, and then it stops, and it'll die an organic death from that stage. If the algorithm actually picks it up and it goes, yeah, this is actually pretty cool content, it actually goes to a human at that head office, and they'll go, yeah, that can add some real value to that LinkedIn community. We'll actually continue letting this get some legs and flick it out to a higher percentage of your own audience, as well as your second and third degree connections and their followers. But I heard when you're using and pulling scheduling posts from a third party app, that algorithm will stop at that organic reach and won't go to that real human to actually look at. Whether that has changed or not in the last couple of years, I'm unaware, but from those couple of people that I was chatting to within the US, I took that on board, and from the impressions, when I started doing them myself and jumping on and physically posting them, it was working a lot better in regards to the impressions that the posts were getting.
Okay, good. I mean, and that's that's good insight. I think anyone who's dabbled in social media marketing for whatever reason, whether it's paid or organic or anything, will know that the rules change week to week, month to month, year to year on different platforms. So it is definitely worth paying attention to how those things work. But I think, as you said, being able to post your own content and having your own kind of data that said this worked better is just an easy, simple kind of solution to the ever-changing algorithms and whatever the things we can't control in the background, right? So if you can give yourself a better shot of being organic and real and doing it yourself, go for it. Otherwise, there is some software there.
Yeah, and like I said, people could be listening going, well, Dino, I'm using Buffer at the moment and it's awesome. I'm getting 3 opportunities a week from it. Fantastic, keep doing it. Do more of it, right? What works for you may not work for me. There's no real, I suppose, rule book when it comes to that. It's what works individually for yourself. But I suppose having a plan around what you're doing and how you're doing it, like you mentioned before, Greg, you're not going, I'll put one post up for the week and I'm done.
Yeah.
Right? It's all around that consistency piece. It's like any marketing that you're doing, whether it's branding, personal branding or corporate branding, the amount of times I see a McDonald's ad that runs through the night or a menu log ad with Hungry Jack's on, if I see one more time, I'm going to shoot myself. But they do it because now all of a sudden I'm talking about it. And if someone says menu log, I just think of Hungry Jack's. I don't think of the other 500 restaurants that are on that app. So you've got to do that with your branding.
Yeah. I think the next challenge for people is content and creating. I think you touched on, I guess, a 3-pillar process of saying, well, look, posting's one part, curating content is the next part, and then engaging with other content is the third part. Talking about creating content that people want to engage with on LinkedIn, like where do you get your content from? How do you create it? Are you actively looking for opportunities to create it throughout the week? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I'm always on the lookout. I think once you start getting into that mindset of content creation and you start getting that enjoyment factor out of it, then you'll start seeing content everywhere, right? But you need to look at it. What's the why? What's the purpose behind a particular piece of content? And if I give you an example, if you're a BDM, you guys are in the same boat, I suppose, as partnership managers. If we're at a PD day or an MFAA, FBAA event, and we're taking a selfie with the room going, hey, I'm at the quarterly forum, whatever it is, how good is this? It's 500 brokers. Great. But what value is that piece of content? In retrospect, if I actually put up, hey, I'm at this PD day today, we actually realize that the industry is tracking in this direction. There's been a jump in residential broker writing deals from whatever it may be. And we've also learned that this is actually on the horizon. As long as you can share that publicly, right? And from a broker's perspective, there's a consumer element to it. Then all of a sudden, the consumer goes, okay, well, you've taken time out of the business to upskill yourself, which is going to benefit your database and consumers that you talk to. You're not just putting a selfie for the hell of it. That type of explanation around what you're doing and why you're doing it and why you're creating that content becomes valuable. And to help people around what that why may be, it's, do you provide information? Do you provide education? Can you inspire someone? Or simply sometimes can you just make somebody smile, right? It doesn't always need to be serious content.
Yeah, I think there's that real, like, that's a good kind of example, right? We see content all the time that's, look at me, I'm at an event and maybe I look good, or there's a brand here that I'm representing or whatever, versus same kind of content, same picture, I'm at the same event, but here's some part of the content, here's some text that adds value to the person I'm actually trying to engage with. So as a lender BDM, it's maybe brokers. As a partnership manager, maybe it's brokers as well. But as a mortgage broker, you're looking for consumers. Saying you're at a mortgage broking awards night or something doesn't really talk to consumers. So correct. I guess that it's understanding who you're trying to communicate with and making sure that your posting aligns with that strategy. I think that is a good one, because I do start to see LinkedIn, it's becoming more and more popular, but the more and more popular it becomes, it's becoming more and more kind of a bit Facebooky, and you are just getting a lot of content that's, I went on holidays and I did this, and I think you're missing an opportunity to speak to your audience if you're just using it as a kind of social platform to put your view in the world.
Yeah, and if it's okay, if I can add on that, Greg, as well, it's a great time now, probably more than ever, to actually collaborate with somebody. One, it gets you into, particularly if they're the ones that are inviting you, don't say no to anybody at this stage. Jump on. We should have that extra time at this stage because we're not traveling to appointments left, right, and centre. But if you can jump on, do that. If they're hosting it, it opens your brand up to a new network. But two, it gives you, again, a piece of content that's been created for you. And you can grab that and put that out. You can grab snippets of it. You can do it behind the scenes. I'd encourage brokers, when was the last time you did the behind the scenes of your office and actually just took the camera around or got somebody to follow you and show clients how your bloody office works? They know you're a broker, they know you do loan applications, but there's a hell of a lot more to brokers than that, right? As you're out in the community, you can grab a snippet and do a day in the life of a broker, but do it really, really cool. That consumers go, actually, this guy goes to the same bloody football club that I go to. He supports the same NRL club that I support. I actually quite like him. And then he goes home and goes to the wife, why don't we actually get this guy to have a look at our finances? We haven't looked at our loan for 3 years. Done. Branding, big tick. So it's all around those different aspects that you can do. So much content, but sometimes we just need to get out of our own way. And I understand it's scary if you're just starting, but you can start with the assistance of your aggregator like you guys. So sorry if I'm dragging more inquiries to you guys, but
no.
I think there's so much value that you guys can deliver. You're not just there to deal with scenarios and software and the like. You guys have so much knowledge to share with everybody.
And I like that. That's another, you've got your fill of good examples. That's another example of we're being real and authentic about, saying, I went to the footy and I support a local club, or I'm down at a local club game and I'm watching, or whatever, actually does open you up to someone who might say, oh, that is someone from our local area. I didn't know that. I see their content, but I didn't really necessarily know that they were in my local area or whatever. So there's just another dynamic, I think, to think about, and maybe that makes making content easier, right? If you're just putting out real things that you're doing, and that's a part of the balance of some of this is educational and some of this is, where I am and what I do and the things I care about, you're going to connect with probably more people, and you'll at least see more approachable rather than just the face behind knowing everything about finance broking.
Exactly.
So my last question for you is do you have any tips on like best forms of content? So I think my personal experience and just looking through LinkedIn, you know, text is tough if it's just text with no image. It kind of gets a bit lost. Images are now used pretty frequently. Almost everyone's post has an image in it, and video seems to be really hot right now. So people are starting to do either, and they can just be amateur kind of videos. Like, I'm in the car, I've just finished an appointment. There was something really interesting that happened in that appointment. I want to share it. So what are your tips about the types of content and I guess how perfect that content needs to be? I think most people are scared of doing a video because right now we're doing a webinar from our houses, for example.
Yep.
And people are like, oh, it's not the normal, it's not the typical thing. Should I be sharing that? So yeah, I'm keen for your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you're right, Greg. A text-only post is a hard one to track. It used to actually, the algorithm used to love text, purely text only, and they used to track really, really well. Now it's probably, like you said, it's taken that shift to video, but it's around that video, that length of that video, because I don't know if you guys spend much time on YouTube, but unless the content is red hot, I'm not spending more than a minute watching it. Right? And I've got time now, and I'm still not spending more than a minute watching it. And LinkedIn, they're saying 30 is the new 60. So if you can deliver a message in under 30 seconds, then you're doing it. But that content works really well. But can you give, I'll take the newspaper analogy again, right? If there's they'll grab people's attentions and their viewers' attention off the headline, right? And then it may have a bit of a snippet of that article, then you open the inside page and there's a continuation of that piece. So how do you create a catchy headline, one that stands out from the noise or even your competitors on the platform, to get people to stop scrolling and go, actually, that looks pretty good. Let me see what they're talking about. That's the goal when you're creating content. So if you're doing purely imagery, like you've got a couple of them up on the screen, can you make them catchy enough? Do some research on colors. I've been looking at what colors get the biggest attraction on social. Have a look at that, mix some colors up. Add your own picture on there. If you're talking personal branding, you're talking you, right? I would say 99% of mine have my face on there, whether you like it or not, it's me. I can't change this unless I'm going to a plastic surgeon or Ashley Martin, but unless Dan's got some tips, but I'm not changing it, right? But you're talking about video, Greg. It doesn't need to be perfect. This thing does wonders. I mean, I do all my video off my phone. I don't use any camera, any laptop. They're just done there. But it's around that messaging. People understand social media is real people. Right? If they don't, well, they're probably jumping on Netflix during the day and watching Money Heist like I've been doing. But it's not around that. It's around what you can deliver. People get that you may be in the car, hopefully not driving, or you may be finished with a client appointment, or you may be at home on the couch like I am. People get that and people understand that. Social media's been around for years. But creating that right type of content. So if you're doing videos, do them short and leave a catchy headline would be my indicative. If you want to create a thumbnail like one of the ones that are on screen that comes up within the first 3 seconds, so that is the first thing they see before it flicks onto you in your messaging. That's another way to start grabbing attention. I'd encourage brokers, if you've got some content around a particular, I don't know, let's say something's changed within our industry that consumers can take advantage of, do you post about that, and then do you share that post to your database as well? Or is it included in an email newsletter that you're doing? Do you do different things that can drag your existing audience to your personal branding across social, so people can start seeing and go, hey, this is good. And then it provides them, again, that opportunity to be able to share it with their mates or their cousin that potentially may be in that finance part of their life that they need some assistance. So
yeah,
that's different things.
recycling the content's a good one there, I think, as well. Like if you've done a video for social media, but then it's a video you could use in a newsletter, or saying, hey, here's a few posts we've done about certain topics, and put it in a newsletter or something, then you kind of feel like you're getting bang for buck. People are, I guess, wary of how much time is this going to take, and how much effort do I need to put in, and what's the reward that's going to come out the back end. But if you, I guess, get smart about it, think, well, I'm going to make content that's multi-dimensional and can be used on multiple platforms, then you really can kind of kill two birds with one stone. So thanks for that insight. I do want to just make one point for anyone who's, I guess we've covered a lot, and there is, I guess, a lot to this. So if you've got questions, just shoot them into the question box. Dan's going to go into our next session, but we'll leave some time for a quick fire Q&A. So anything that's kind of sitting there on the tip of your tongue, you just want to ask the question, chuck it in the question box, and we'll try and get to it.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Dino. Yeah, really interesting insight there, Dan. I think that the one thing that probably stood out for me, and I'm just mindful of time here, but the one thing that stood out for me was just probably keeping your structure fluid. And what works for you is, may not work for everyone else. So whether you can allocate 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 4 hours, 1 hour, I think just doing something and starting something is the key, and just get the ball rolling. So thank you for that. Now, you said you're watching Money Heist on Netflix, are you?
I am. I've just started part 3.
Nice, good one, mate. I'm getting through The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan doco, which is really good. I'm enjoying that. And mate, we'll catch up post. Yeah, go.
Sorry, Dan. I was just going to say, for Money Heist, if you actually take something away from it, from the people that have watched it, it's the planning, right?
Oh,
it's
right.
It's so granular that you can just take that and go, I can put that. And brokers are in a great position to take advantage of their brains, because they're such structured human beings, because you need to be with compliance, clients, all of that aspect, from the pre-qualifying questions to settlement and post-settlement, that the structuring of it should be easier for a broker than somebody in a different industry.
Yeah, nice one. I've jotted that down, Money Heist as well, mate, so I'll get onto that. And let's catch up after the webinar, mate, because I reckon you and I can go to Ashley and Martin and get maybe like a 2-in-1 offer or something. I could save some money.
We can do.
So I've only got
Going to jump in quickly, because there's actually a couple of quick fire questions that have come through after that request, and I don't want to run out of time. So do you think hashtags worked on LinkedIn to drive traction, is one of the questions.
My personal experience, no. I've experimented with similar posts, not identical, but very, very similar, where I've placed a few hashtags on one, and same time, same day, and the other one actually tracks better. It wasn't by much, but it did. It could have just been the people that were on the network, on the platform at that time. But they do say that if you're going to use hashtags on LinkedIn, max it at 3. Don't do more than 3.
Okay, well that's, I mean, not do more than 3 is probably a good response there.
And you can search it as well. Search the hashtags in the field and see how many people are actually following that hashtag. Because if there's 20 people following it, there's probably no point putting it on there.
Okay. What are your thoughts of what are your thoughts on the value of joining groups within LinkedIn?
Yeah. Do we have a name for that? Is there any names that are coming through, Greg, on this one?
The name of the group?
No, name of the person who's asking the question.
Yeah, I can. Michelle.
Are they happy? Is that what you normally do on these webinars, or you don't? We don't mention names.
I won't
personalize it to them. That's all.
No, I can. Oh no, Michelle Holmes. So she said all good. She's come through. Okay. Thanks, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. How are you going? Thanks for the question. Listen, groups work. There was a lot of talk around probably 18 months that groups were getting an uplift on LinkedIn. That joining them was going to get some more traction. You can have a bigger demographic. I can't see that. That hasn't happened. So I'll follow. I mean, the MFAA has a group. I'm not sure if Plan has a group on there, but you guys can probably fill us in on that one. I follow some business development groups, some sales, social media marketing groups, all in there. The traction's very low on that, but it opens you up because you can message people that are part of a private group or an unlisted group, I think is what the terminology they call it. So automatically then, if I'm part of a business development one and I want to run a sales tactic through, I can actually message people individually that I may not be connected with. So there's the benefit that I see in actually joining groups or private groups at that. So thanks, Michelle.
Awesome. And there's one other question, and I guess it's back to almost one of the first topics we said was, how do you get over, or do you have any tips about how to get over that kind of anxiety around sharing something that potentially is, a little bit personal, or you're being a little bit vulnerable? And I mean, we said it, Australians have this tall poppy kind of syndrome. You could be, doing the best thing in the world and someone will still have a problem with it. How do you kind of get over that if you've got any tips, or how did you get over it?
And besides just sitting in my phone for 2 months, which I wouldn't recommend, pick 3 or 4 people in your network, all right, and go, hey, can I just run past this content? Can you give me some honest feedback? All right, but don't, as I mentioned before, don't pick your best mate that you speak to 5 times a week, because they're just going to tell you what you want to hear, and that it's all fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Pick somebody. Pick a couple of brokers in the industry that you know of and you guys are sharing ideas. Share it with you guys even. I'd encourage brokers. Use plan, again, sorry guys, I'm shooting more work your way, but bounce ideas, right. Create the video, create the post and go, Dan, Greg, can you give me some ideas around this branding and what you want to look at? What do you think of this? Get other people's thoughts, because as soon as, if your mindset would automatically be, okay, I've done it, I've created it, which is the hard part. Now what's stopping me from doing it? It's just this. But if you can get people going, and you get 90% of people going, no, that's actually pretty cool, I like that. It'll just start creating that structure around and that mindset to go, well, I was on the right pathway to actually create the right piece of content and do that. So don't be scared. Share it with 2 or 3 people instead of 300 and see what you get back.
Yeah, just get a win, right? You just need a couple of runs under your belt. You just need to get a bit of people saying, look, it's all good. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that one person who didn't like it, whatever, that's personal preference. I don't like yellow, so I don't like the one that Dino's posted because it's yellow. That's great, yeah. But it's not a personal attack. Cool.
Correct.
Look, final question, Dino, before we check questions again and we wrap up. But the final question I've got is really around the platforms. So we've got LinkedIn, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram. There's probably more that I'm unaware of, but they're kind of probably the big 3. I guess, how do you choose what to post and on which platform? I mean, do you just go, you know what, I am going to post on this day, on this time, on all platforms? Or do you need to be really specific and targeted around what you put on each of those platforms?
I think the timing needs to be targeted. So those timings that we went through on LinkedIn are probably a little bit different to Facebook and Instagram. Going on the posts, I mean, if we took around the one on the right, which has got the deception, the enemy of branding, I'm presuming everyone can see that with us. Listen, you can have a context around what that means from, even though it's personal branding, but from a little bit more of a corporate feel around what branding looks like and what you've experienced in the past, and what works well and what doesn't work well. And that's something that you can share on LinkedIn. From a real personal brand, you can change that content a little bit around Facebook and Instagram, if you like. So instead of putting that piece of content up, the value of it may be the same around Instagram, but it may be something where you're at a pub and you've got a pint of beer, right? And you're taking that and you're going that the deception of branding is this, because do you know what? I don't drink. So the pint's still full because I don't drink, but I'm not deceiving anyone from my brand. So you can start automatically changing what that content is to max out the audience on your platforms. Okay, I'm not encouraging everyone to take a photo of them holding a pint of beer, but you get the idea that I'm trying to come away with. You can leave that corporate feel, even though you want to get real and authentic on LinkedIn, but you can create that content so it's a little bit more corporate to a degree, and then you can release those reins across Facebook and Instagram, and even change it up a little bit. Different pics, but same messaging. So when I go through my calendar, the main difference is the timing around the posts. The feel of that content, the content type is the same. At the end of the day, that purpose of that piece of content doesn't change across each platform, but the picture might change or the headline might change. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, it does, mate. Yeah, it definitely does. And, it's just really, I think it's just about adapting and just keeping it fluid as well. But no, that's really good. Thank you, mate. Look, that is my final question. I'm going to hand back to Greg to close today's session, Dino. But I just personally wanted to say thank you for your time, mate. You are very generous. You're a good man, and it was good to catch up today, mate, and get your insights on personal branding. And next time you're in Melbourne, we need to do dinner again, mate.
My pleasure, absolutely.
Hey guys, before everyone rushes off, because that kind of sounded like that was going to be right at the end, and I'm waiting to just see the numbers disappear.
No, you're doing the wrap, mate. You're doing the wrap.
Dino's,
I do have an offer.
It does have an offer for us. So, I mean, we've covered a lot of content, and, people were probably scrambling to write some of that down. So if you want to let us know about the offer, Dino, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's not to get in contact with me and I'll spend an hour with you. It's nothing like that. But I have published an ebook around personal branding. And it's a 62-page book, and there's parts in there around the social media calendar that you can take away. You can write your objectives down. It's on Amazon at the moment for $14.99 US. As of tomorrow, 5 p.m., so Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for 24 hours only, the book's going to be available for free to download. So what I'll do is I'll shoot Dan and Greg the amazon.com.au site with the link to the book, and you guys can shoot it out to however many people as possible. And I'll also post about this tomorrow evening at about 6 p.m. So people can jump on and download the book for free, and everything that I was talking around that strategy, the mindset, the content creation is all packaged under the one ebook. So grab it for free while you can.
And that's amazing. Like, I mean, to be coming on a webinar, presenting a whole bunch of content, you've put a lot of time and effort and energy into that, and then you've documented it, you've created a book, and then to say, well, hey, I'm going to offer it for free so that everyone on this webinar can read and have it kind of live and ready for them. I think that's awesome, and I want to say thank you. I'll definitely be downloading a copy. I think it's it's really important for everyone to kind of have a presence online, and I'm starting to see some thank yous kind of coming through the question box as well.
The book, I did co-author it with a gentleman in Sri Lanka who's all into branding and does heaps of presentations in Colombo over there. So it also has a mindset of somebody else in a different demographic and a different cultural fit, where even I learned things from. So it's cool to have my own knowledge, but you've got somebody else in a different part of the world sharing around branding. So it's not all mine. Credit to my co-author, Nero, as well. So once you have a look on there, you'll see his name and his commentary in the book.
Fantastic. So guys, some call outs from today. Make sure you download a copy of that book. It's going to be available from 5 p.m. tomorrow. We'll get out the link, and obviously probably even easier, go and find Dino on all the socials, but he's a big advocate, a big user of LinkedIn. So go and find him on LinkedIn, and then you'll be able to keep up to date with what's going on, and you'll be able to, I guess you've now got a bit of behind the scenes of how he does and why he's trying to curate a personal brand online. So his content will mean something even more to you when you start to see it. So hope everyone's enjoyed it. I know that's a bit of an out of the box thing from us, and the interview style is a bit different to what we normally do, but we hope you enjoyed it, and I'll make sure Dino gets all of these. Thank you very much. You're a legend coming through on the on the question box. So
thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks guys. Have a good day.
See you.